Alright, in this video we're going to be taking a look at this guy right here. This is the new MIDI controller from Native Instruments, the Traktor Kontrol X1. Now obviously it was designed to use with Traktor Pro and Traktor Scratch Pro. However, it is just a regular MIDI controller and can be used in any MIDI capable program. So obviously we're going to be taking a look at using the X1 in particular with the new Serato Scratch Live 2.0. Now there's been a lot of talk and discussion about which MIDI controller to get for 2.0. And obviously the X1 is one of the top choices. However, a lot of people also like the Denon DNHC 1000, which is already a natively supported Scratch Live controller and has been since its debut a couple months ago. However, I do not rather care for the horizontal layout of the Denon unit. I much prefer the vertical layout of the Traktor Kontrol X1. It fits nicely between my mixer and my turntable, and I just prefer that over the Denon's horizontal layout. A few other ones people have been looking at are the Akai LPD8, which is basically a better version of the Korg Nano Pad and the Nano Control. And also the Stanton S3S 3D, aka the Scratch. That was probably going to be my second choice, but I'm not too sure about the whole touch interface thingy with the Stanton unit. I much prefer actual physical buttons, knobs, and sliders and stuff like that. So I chose the X1. I previously had an Allen & Heath Zone 1D, which I liked as well, but it was rather big and bulky, and the buttons were really tiny and small, so I got rid of that, and I got the X1 now. So that's my choice, and I highly recommend it as well. It's a very solid controller. Buttons are nice and sturdy and solid, and knobs and everything, and I just highly recommend it. Retails for $199, so it is probably one of the more expensive units out there, but I do think it is well worth it. So with that in mind, let's plug this bad boy in. And when you do, you're going to get treated to a nice little light show, like that. It's going to flash up in a gradient. Now, included with the X1 is a control editor software, which you're going to need to use to set up and map the X1. And basically is just a mirror image of the controller. And this is where you're going to set up and define what MIDI control change numbers, messages that each button and knob sends out. Now included with the control editor is a pre-mapped Serato Scratch Live template. Now this is mainly for just the 1.9 version though, and it does not include any of the new effect parameter controls in 2.0. The 1.9 template is mainly for triggering cue points and samples and looping. So what you're going to need to do first is create a new blank template, and you just click on edit down here and just click on new, and that will make a new blank template. And pretty much all the control change messages are already set up for you, the default setting, which is fine. And so another thing that we need to mention and get off the bat first of all is, since Scratch Live does not have MIDI output, it cannot drive the LEDs on the X1 and tell it to light up. But if you go into the preferences here, you can set the on and the off state brightness of the LEDs. As you can hopefully see that the buttons are lit somewhat, and you can adjust this with this slider right here, so you can make it fully bright at all times, so it'll be nice and lit in the dark club, or you can turn it all the way down if you so wish. So you can get all the LEDs to come on, either fully on or fully off or anywhere in between. However, getting a button to light up when it's pressed is a little more tricky, and I'm going to get into that next. So this is how you set the on and off state brightness of the LEDs in the editor. For my purposes, I'm going to set it just slightly dim like that. So all right, I'm going to click on OK. Now, on to the next part, the LEDs. As I mentioned, Scratch Live does not have MIDI output, so it cannot tell the X1 to light up when you press a button or whatnot. However, if we go to any of the buttons, if you press any of them, then it will jump to it in the editor. And if we go to assign, you can change the mode. These are the various modes for a button. You can either change it as a toggle, a trigger, a gate, or an increase. Now, if you assign a button as a toggle, that will turn the LED on like that internally in the controller. Alright, so that's good. However, most functions in Scratch Live work better as a gate. And unfortunately, if you assign a button as a gate, the LED does not light up. So, however, being the crafty person that I am, there is a workaround for that. you're going to need to use an external third-party MIDI translating program like Bohm's MIDI translator, Pure Data, or the program I'm going to be showing in this video is MIDI Pipe. MIDI Pipe is a free MIDI interpretation and translating software for Macs. For PCs, there is the free version of Bohm's MIDI translator. It's just a light version. If you want the pro version, that's going to cost. And Pure Data is free and cross-platform compatible on both Macs and PCs. However, Pure Data is a little more complicated than Bohm's or MIDI Pipe. It's used for a lot of various different things besides MIDI and audio and video applications, but it is free, and that will get the LEDs to light up as well. It's just a little more complicated to set up. Alright, so if you want the LEDs to light up in gate mode, you're going to need to use an external third-party MIDI translating program until the time that Scratch Live has MIDI output, or we've also been trying to get Native Instruments to support LED lighting inside the control editor software right here when a button is assigned to the gates. So hopefully we might see that in the future as well. But for now, if you want the LED to light up as a gate, you're going to have to use one of these third-party MIDI translating programs, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. So for right now, this is the control editor software where you set up your templates and set up the button and knob assignments and what values they send out. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. So let's close out of the control editor and take a look at MIDI Pipe, which I'm going to be using to get the LEDs to light up. And actually, whoops, hold on one second, sorry. I gotta switch templates back to that one. Okay, so onto MIDI Pipe. Again, this is just a MIDI translating and interpretation software. All you need to do is select MIDI in, drag it over, and select MIDI out, drag that over. You also need to define the Traktor controller as the input and output device, which it already is by default. So, with that in mind now that we have MIDI Pipe running, and it does have to stay open and running in the background while you're running Scratch Live in order for the LEDs to light up. So, now that we have MIDI Pipe running, and we can see now all the buttons, LEDs will light up when pressed like this, with the exception of these two up here that I have assigned to toggle in the control editor, and those will light up regardless and will stay on. These are what I have to turn on the effects, which I'm going to get into in my next video. But using the MIDI Pipe software, I can now get all the LEDs to light up when I press the button, and the toggles will light regardless. So there you go. That's how you get the LEDs to light up for now until the time when Scratch Live has MIDI output or Native Instruments updates the control editor software. So with that in mind, let's stop this video and go on to the next one, and that is how I actually have things mapped in Scratch Live 2.0, and I'll get into what I have assigned to all the buttons and what everything does.